All right, in our last example that we're going to look at, we are going to look at finding solutions when we have logs on both sides. So we're going back to that property of equality, that if we have two logs with the same base, then we can set the arguments equal to each other. So if we're looking at our original equation, our natural log has a base of e. So because the base is the same on both sides, we can set the arguments equal to each other. Okay. Since I have an x squared, that lets me know that I probably need to solve by factoring, but in order to solve by factoring, we have to move all of our terms to one side. Let's go ahead and move our 6x over. So now I'm looking at my trinomial x squared minus 6x minus 16. So if I solve by factoring here, I have to use the x method. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 16, but also add to negative 6. So negative 8 and positive 2 are going to work. Then when I actually get my solutions, I set each of my factors equal to 0, so x equals 8. And then x would equal negative 2. Right. So now looking at my two possible solutions, I want to think of any extraneous solutions. Right. So if I were to plug either 8 or negative 2 back into my original equation, I have to consider any negative arguments that we get. Because in a logarithmic equation or a logarithmic expression, we can't have any negative arguments. Right? So if we think about plugging 8 back into our equation, 8 squared would give me a positive number, minus 16 is still positive. 8 times 6 would give me a positive 48 as an argument. So 8 checks out as a solution. If we look at negative 2, negative 2 works for the left side of the equation, right? Because I'd get negative 2 squared. If I subtract 16, then I'd end up getting a negative argument. And then if I plug it in on the right side, I also get a negative argument. So x equals negative 2 would be considered extraneous. So our solution, x equals 8, and then we can make a note that x equals negative 2 is extraneous. If you are entering this on formative, I would recommend to list out your solution first. So x equals 8. I would separate it with a comma, and then I would enter in your extraneous solution. So x equals negative 2 is extraneous. So go ahead and try out the last two examples. Check your work on formative. Again, make sure that you list your real solution first, and then if you have anything that's extraneous, go ahead and list it out second.